back to The Taste of Life. For those of you who have missed my previous videos, this is a series that I am putting out there to guide you through 7 steps that I discovered on my journey and that I wrote about in my book, The Taste of Becoming Me. 7 steps to guide you to a life of freedom, of well-being, of inner peace, of joy, and an empowered life. And so we are working in these videos through those 7 steps, diving into the stories that I wrote about every one of those 7 steps, and the emotions that I experienced, how those 7 steps changed my life, and how they guided me on my journey after my cancer diagnosis in 2011. And so I wanted to share that experience with all of you and talk about it and hopefully shed some light on your own journey. So last week I introduced the step Claiming Your Power, and I talked about that a little bit, about how so very often we give our power away without even realizing it, and without even knowing that we have an enormous amount of power inside of us, and that we are the ones who decide how to experience this present moment and how to experience this life. And in that step, Claiming Your Power, the first story that I want to talk about today, where I went through a really massive change in my life, is the belief of perfectionism. Perfectionism always played a really big role in my life. It was my belief that I had to be perfect in order to be loved, and I had to be perfect in order to be safe. Anything less than perfect to me meant that meant insecurity. And it meant that I was not safe, and I could not believe that there was any way that I could be loved unless I was perfect. Now, of course, behind that was the fact that I did not really love myself unconditionally. I did not love those imperfect pieces of myself. And if I could not love them, then how could I ever expect anyone else to love those pieces? And so I was hiding all those imperfect sides of myself from the outside world. And I was doing my very best to be as perfect as I could be. The perfect wife, the perfect mother, the perfect friend, perfect daughter, perfect employee, you name it. I was working very hard to be perfect at every single moment of my life. And I had this idea, I had this belief that if I could be perfect, if I could reach the goal that I was setting for myself as perfect, that I would be free, I would be loved, I would be appreciated, and everything would be okay. Now, of course, I never really reached that goal because I kept changing the goal all the time. So I was working to be perfect, and I was never ever free because I was never reaching that goal that I kept changing on myself. Because this was all coming from inside of me. There were these pieces that I was hiding, and no matter what I was doing, no matter how I kept changing my goal, those pieces were still there, and they were still the same, and they were never going to change. So the only solution to being free and to claiming my power was to accept those pieces. And that change and that realization for me came after I was diagnosed with cancer, because that was about the most imperfect period of time in my life that I ever went through. So not only was my body physically imperfect because there was the cancer, then there was the fact that I was extremely tired. and I was losing weight rapidly. So that was definitely not perfect. And then emotionally, I was as far from perfect as I had ever been. There was this gigantic level of anxiety and of this darkness overwhelming me that I could not even believe that I was the same person, because that was so far from perfect, so far from the goal I had always set for myself of being this positive, perfect, smiling person, that that I really didn't know how to deal with that. So, and that is when my journey started, and that is while I was moving through all these steps that I realized how disempowering my belief that I had to be perfect in order to be loved, how disempowering that belief actually was. And so that is when I started claiming that power back, claiming the power back of allowing myself to be whole and complete, and to be messy in that wholeness, because the whole package of me was not perfect. No, it was messy, and it was confusing sometimes, and it was a whole lot of things that were not perfect. But in that imperfectionism, there was so much beauty, and there was so much freedom to be found, that that is what I want to share with you today. Because we don't realize that when we are stuck in that disempowering belief of perfectionism, we don't realize that we are denying ourselves the freedom, we are denying ourselves the power to experience the beauty in this life. So that is why I wanted to talk to you today about how perfectionism ruled my life, and how I'm hoping that by sharing this story, and by sharing how I was dealing with it, that it might maybe open the door for you to look at your own perfectionism, and to discover how far you are willing to go, what power you are willing to sacrifice in order to present yourself to the world in a way that you think the world wants to perceive you, because that is different for every single one of us. And I wanted to share with you that perfectionism is something that is created by our mind. It is a belief that we are holding on to for whatever it is that we are searching for in this life. Whether it is love, whether it is safety, security, appreciation, whatever it is that we are looking for outside of us, that is what perfectionism is trying to fill in for. And that is why when we live in this belief of perfectionism, that we are giving our power away. So I'm sharing this story so that you can claim that power back. Claim that power back of being perfectly imperfect, beautiful you. Because I can guarantee you from the experience that I went through, that there is so much freedom, so much joy, and so much beauty to be found in accepting the whole package of you, in accepting the power that is inside of you, and that comes with accepting every single part of you. And so for now, I would like you to look at your level of perfectionism. What does perfectionism mean to you? Is it a perfectly clean house, or an empty inbox so that all your mails have been answered? Is it a perfectly trimmed garden? I don't know, whatever it represents to you. How far do you go? How far are you willing to go and sacrifice the power over how you experience this present moment, how to sacrifice that to a level of perfectionism that you are aiming for. So I really would like you to look at that. What does perfectionism mean to you? And what is the emotion that is attached to it? So if you are perfect to the level that you want yourself to be, what kind of a feeling does that give you? Does it make you feel appreciated? Does it make you feel safe? Does it make you feel loved? What is the emotion that you attach to your perfectionism? And how would you feel without it? And that, starting from that question, you can start the journey of slowly breaking the chains of perfectionism, because that is how I did it, with small steps. Like really forcing myself in the beginning, because when you've been stuck in the role of perfectionism for so long, for so many years, it is a conscious decision to step out of it. And it is by forcing yourself to really make the change that you are going to break the chain of perfectionism. So in the beginning, I had to force myself to allow a corner of my house to be messy, to not cut the grass, to not get rid of every single weed in my garden. I had to force myself. And yes, in the beginning it was hard, because the habit of perfectionism would come up every single time again. And that is how you claim your power. When you say to yourself, no, I am absolutely ready to take this step, and I am absolutely ready to claim the power over my life and to create the best moment that I can experience. And being perfect all the time is definitely not the best experience that I can have in this life, because it is taking away my freedom. So step by step, my friends, step by step, you claim that power, and you will discover the freedom that is found in that power. So thank you so much for listening to me. That was it for today. And as always, if you have any questions, or you would like to talk to me about this, or have some more information on how I went on my journey, then please reach out to me. Like, leave me a comment, or go to my website that is posted below, and send me an email. In whatever way, reach out to me and I will get back to you, I promise. So next week we will dive into the second story in the step Claiming Your Power, and there I will be talking about guilt and the disempowering effect that has on your life, and how to change your mindset about that and claim your power. Because that is what this whole series of videos is about. It's like changing your mindset. It's changing how you look at things, and maybe even emotions and subjects that you never thought were so restricting or so limiting in your experience of life. So again, thank you for listening to me, for joining me, and I really hope that I will see you again next week. For now, have a good day. Bye.